Hello and welcome. It is currently 10:36 p.m. Eastern Time on the 25th day of May 2021. My name is Derek and this is the Money Charts channel where, like always, all bets, trades, and amongst the like, to each his own risk and their own reward. Bitcoin, and I'm not going to go much over the charts. I'm actually going to just talk about stuff, random things, and I guess it has a lot to do with money, basically. And then talk about money. Yeah, basically, that's it. And we'll start with the charts, which had this move breaking down below this level of support on the 19th of May and has now spent the last week or a bit more just hanging in there, or it has supported one piercing extra, two piercing less, and 2 days later piercing extra again amongst the first key Fibonacci, or this key Fibonacci level of 33. Unable, maybe a little bit on these 2 days, but at least lately, not as of yet anyway, to retest the 43,000 level. Hanging in there. And the first test amongst the 18 average on the daily term. And when you look at the long-term time frames, it's making its first break below the weekly. It's now that questionary move. Is it going to be a real one, which would thus make new lows, usually either continue further downward red candle movement, or have some resistance amongst the 18 and such and other Fibonacci marks, and so on and so forth. Maybe it's going to be a failed breakdown, and then it's able to recapture this and break higher, or even developing a range, because this is just too tight of a range in my opinion, 48,000 to 55. But as it goes, if it's unable to hold this level, I'd be looking for support pretty much around 20,000. The monthly and bull market movement still having a move that has came down to the 18 of highs and has barely lifted off from that point ever since. And the 18 lows coincides right now within the Fibonacci at 22,000. Now let's move on to that of precious metals and silver, which just yada yadaing for like the whole year and some. And not only that, for the entire past few years and decades, in years and decades, because I mean this is the years part, just and really still below this high. So retracement from this to this in decades, of course. We're in the sideways range from about 50 down to about $4. But we've been holding above like 15 and 14 for the last many periods in here. Yeah, I mean the fact that we haven't got above the 80 highs and all that yada yada stuff. Nice bullish setup here, but I really don't want to focus too much on the technicals. I mean, it does look as if on the daily this thing could easily go off and get ready to go, but that's not really what I want to talk about. And obsessed. Yeah, I'm obsessed right now. Well, there's this guy. He's cheating. I think he's cheating on many women. At least one, but looks like even a couple though. It's not looking good. And even investment advisors, he's cheating on too. Yeah, this guy also does not like beer. Maybe a doc, retirement not too far away. What am I talking about here? Yeah, and well, for me, I only watch really hockey and stuff on sports channels. So I really see a lot of the same commercials, and a lot of the commercials are investing commercials, like Quest Trade and Scotia Bank type stuff. And I kind of also noticed that a lot of times the same people are in the same commercials, the same voice actors. I think John Cena in the United States is doing a whole bunch of commercials. Maybe it's just one trunk company. I don't know. But I've been hearing those commercials on the NBC hockey games and U.S. channel content. And this is the whole thing about the investments and everything. I just kind of wonder if you were to talk to those companies, what would they have said 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 1 week ago, 4 years ago about cryptocurrencies? Would they have talked about anything about diversification, holding your own funds, how you do it, and stuff like that, yada yada yada? But this one guy, one commercial, there was like he's holding hands with this one woman, and he's like, and girl's like, "Oh, retirement's just so far away." He's like, "No, I've heard a lot of good things from Quest Trades. It's not too far off." And then now I'm seeing him with a different girl, and now he's go over to Scotia advisement area, and they're talking about getting this. Everything's looking great for them, and like one girl's like, this new house, like a guy's like, oh, maybe we can get a dock, and she's like, maybe furniture, and he's like, maybe a dock, and it's the same guy. And then another time I seen him hanging out with a whole bunch of people. It's like a party. There's like 6, 7, 8 different people, and he had a different girl around with him too. And he was just mentioning how he didn't like beer. But yeah, all these commercials I've seen so many times with people doing that. I like to mock commercials actually, and I only got a couple that I really want to talk about right now, or 3 really. Months and months and many months ago, probably the start of the hockey season of this current one, which would have been like January, I'm guessing, but it might have been last year. I don't remember. And it's a car commercial or a truck commercial, whatever. It was a minivan, whatever. And within it, there's this little kid. His name is Jake, I think. His name is, and his mom and dad are like, "Oh, you gotta go pee." He's like, "No, you gotta wash him." No, nope, nope. So his mom takes him out, goes for a drive, and the kid's like, "I gotta go pee. I gotta go pee." And all of a sudden, she's trying to get to the point where she can go and everything, which is what you're supposed to do. And well, she does, and she opens the door, and the kid's like, "It's too late," with a good laugh and smile and everything. And that aired for weeks and weeks and weeks. But then they took that part off. I was like, wow, I can't believe what I was seeing when I seen it. And then I got DoorDash. Yeah, let's be rude, asshole. This was really, really bad. And they took this one off too. It was a situation where this one guy comes in, he's delivering whatever food, and he makes whether it was a stupid joke or not, I can't remember, but whatever, like type of fair comment. And this girl like goes over, and then we're talking probably somewhere around her, somewhere in the mid-20s, mid to late 20s, 27, and she's like totally taking this route and boom, boom, like almost closing the door in his face and everything. I'm like, oh my goodness. And it's like, you're trying to promote that type of like behavior. That's just pathetic. And then of course they stopped doing that. And this was another car commercial, U.S. one, and having access to the every hockey game means that I can watch like the L.A. Kings network and the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think this was a California channel. And it was really, really bad. It was a spot where if you listen to it, like I really want to, it's like a guy really wanting to like have like, get into like, like really get into it with like it was small, like he really wants to have like, well, sex with a car or some object. It was really bad. The way the wording sounded, I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, if you're just like not watching it and listening to it, I'm like, am I hearing what I'm hearing type of thing? I mean, if you're watching it like I did, I'm like, that still sounded bad. So these are just random things I just wanted to go over. But there's more. And I'm going to move into money. I used to think growing up that pretty much everyone, only cared about money. I mean, that's all everyone cares about. Now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that hardly anyone cares about money. I mean, what's the definition of care? I mean, really to know of, to be smart upon, to realize a lot about it, to all that type of stuff. And if you care about money, that means you would do things like research it, so on and so forth. Here's a few questions. I mean, you don't have to answer. You pretty much know where I'm getting at within all these questions. What does the adjective fiat mean? I mean, this is really simple, basic. It's sort of trivia, like a subject. I mean, trivia knowledge like Jeopardy, but well, it's not trivia. It's just education knowledge. It's like, well, if we have 100 chapter book, you've already gotten through this one in the first 4, 5, 6 chapters. So it's early education items. It's just like in accounting. What's a general ledger? What's a blockchain and cryptocurrency? Stuff like that. Anyway, I'm not going to put that one as a question. What's a blockchain and cryptocurrency? But Talk or write about any pre-World War II significant monetary event, which means talk about it for like 5 minutes, write like a few pages, few paragraph essay. Pick whichever one you want. I mean, go in the 19th century, 18th century. Heck, you can even talk about some, even like biblical times, the medieval times, like all the old stuff, the origin times of gold. Those are all cool things. And if you really get excited, you want to talk about a whole bunch of them. That's just pretty damn cool. Who owns the Federal Reserve? I should put and or the Bank of Canada. True or false? You own the cash you have in your bank balance. Which animal would be referred to as a gold blank ION? I didn't reread this over before doing it. That's what I normally do, but I didn't on this one. Why did we go off the gold standard? Canadian coins of 10 cents and greater contain blank percentage of silver pre-19. True or false? I have private crypto keys I've protected. When did you first acquire your first cryptos? When did you first acquire your first gold and or silver? If no to either or previous three, explain why on the no. Especially if it's on several of them and all of them. Oh my goodness, wow. That's kind of scary. I mean, that's really scary. I should put, like, how much of a huge gambler are you? Because, okay, I know about this fiat currency and I want to bet on it. Meaning, I'm not going to buy gold and silver because it's obviously going to go down because fiat currency is going to go way up in value. And then you got these cryptocurrencies. And if I mean, obviously they're like fake and they're not good. And even if they are good, the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and Aussie dollar, and the euro, come on, man. Everything's going to go up in value against it, which means things like, say, potato chips. Maybe you're paying $2 a bag. Well, it's going to go down to $1.50, then down to $1, then 50 cents, 20 cents, 10 cents. Then it'll be a penny in time because of the huge, huge value increases you're going to get with the fiat dollar. Of course, I'm going to just end that stupid sarcasm. But in reality, when you have a situation of decent savings or better, and you have knowledge of gold, even if it's just the basic, silver, and cryptocurrencies, what are you doing not getting into it? And I can really see the fear in a lot of people as far as within the subject. I've heard a lot, and I think this is an excuse, but people say, I just got the time to get into it. Okay. You know, I mean, if you want me to talk to you about it, I can really get you going. And heck, you know what? It's a lot early time, like an hour here and an hour there, and probably a couple hours there. And you're probably going to have to do about 4, 5, 6 hours work on your own, even a little bit more. And then after that, I mean, I got a system trade where it's like hardly any work at all. But, nah. And actually, I have yet in my life to have met a single person who actually is wanting to trade the way that I do and hold cryptos the way that I do. A couple of people close enough, and then holding some of them in private keys and stuff like that, which is great. But I have yet to get that over the several years that I've known about that. A whole bunch of different topics that I really do want to go over coming soon. And these are a few of them right now. This one being one of them. And right now, that of fantasy hockey. For some time, roughly around here, which would have been October of 2019, and I have YouTube videos talking about, I think I figured out how I can beat this hockey game. And I spent time within this exact spreadsheet doing a lot of different computer programming and putting numbers and I think working, everything's a number to me. It really felt pretty much, not really, but really. But putting a lot of numbers and formulas and pretty much things together to make sense of how to put strategy together. And oh my goodness, the more I was doing it, I was like so pumped doing it, because every time I was doing this day, I'm like, oh my goodness, the first results were like that great. Oh wow, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then for 2, 3, 4 weeks playing at extremely micro stakes. And I started playing this back in 2014, and I pretty much won or lost playing like $10 here, $2 there, $1 here, nothing at high stakes. And then for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks playing, it was like, wow, I'm unlucky. And then one of the days, just before here, the breakout, the day of the breakout, I was going through my numbers, and I'm like, I'm up $1 or something, $1.50, over like 5 weeks or 4 weeks of doing this. In the first couple of weeks, we did like no stakes at all, like 50 cents or $1 per day or per game. And then that day, I mean, it was literally like just boom up. I made like a grand or well, even more than that. Maybe about a grand. Might have been more. Over like 8 days. I went every single day. Each line represents half a month. This going sideways was the lockdown, the stopping of all the sports in 2020. And then they came back, and yeah, it was pretty good. And then the off season, and then the season's back on. And you know what? It's probably going to do this sideways movement again. Come, how much time? I'm literally watching a hockey game now with 9.1 seconds left in the third of the first round. So we're looking at all of June into July. So from like late July on into then all of August, it'd be like nothing. I mean, what am I going to do in August? Barely baseball, whatever. I mean, I do play it. And I've had some interesting results within the strategy that I'm doing. But that's when I'll analyze my play up until that point and decide how I'm going to play the baseball game. I got a strategy now in baseball that's working well. Not today though, and there's still one game going on right now, a Dodger game that who knows what's going to happen on that. But this is like good gains, over 70 grand that I've been able to acquire within little over, almost not quite 2 seasons, because there's 3 rounds of the playoffs plus a few of this game. And when we get to the late rounds, I mean, there's huge gains. Exactly what happened here, the very end of this, was because of the final part of the playoffs, the final couple rounds. Well, actually, the Stanley Cup Finals was very interesting, because part of this down move was because literally game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, I lost like over 2 grand. Maybe 2, even might have been more than that. Might have been 2,500, 3,000. And then game 2, I probably lost over a grand again. Game 3, I know I didn't win that game, or didn't win it much. Now game 4 was a winner. And so was game 6, I think, which was a final game. And game 5, I think I lost. But the semifinals was just amazing all the way through. And then this season has too. I have really had like no major down streaks during this run. Like this little blimp here. And this little blimp here was like, oh, okay, so I had like 1 month, or I had like one period where I lost like $20 over like half a month. Everything else is won like 3,000 this period. I go over 15 days or 14 days, 16 days, whatever. Like 3,000, 2,000, 5,000, whatever. And as I go back to the charts, it gives me something that I've worked for, I have worked for, that I've strived for my whole life. And that to be able to consistently win on a sports betting game that, well, basically back in 1997, that's when I thought I couldn't do any wrong. For I would buy the Toronto Sun newspaper every single day at lunchtime when I went to school. And I would look at the standings, and I did have access, not the start, I had access to the internet near the end, because I got the internet like March, I think, of that year, and it was 1997, and January is when I was doing it. So for the first few months, I didn't have access to the internet. So I just look at the newspaper, and I'd look at the standings and whatever other information I could see, look how teams did on the road, look at the goals for, goals against, look at what the previous game results, plus what I already knew about the teams, and playing the Sports Select, which is pretty much a terrible bet. But back then, the odds they had in 1997, they were beatable because they beat them, but they weren't that bad, but they still weren't good. There was still very good, decent juice on it. But I was consistently making 3-game parlays with usually a decent size underdog that would be in the equivalency of a plus 150 size bet or price tag. A favorite of like usually like a minus 130, minus 125, minus 110. And then what they called a tie, which meant the game had to tie. And they did have ties back then. It had to end in a tie. And that would usually be usually plus 600 to plus 700. In between flat. So a decent sized price. And I was hitting ties, I think, like close to 20% of the time. Even not 24, I was hitting like 23, 24% times. When I predicted a tie, I was right. Close to 1 in 5 times. Which, or a little bit better than, maybe like 11 out of 50 or something. And when you were getting like plus 650, plus 700, plus 725, that worked out pretty good. So it's very common that my tickets would, I don't know, I always, it's almost like you try to make it work this way, and it kind of still worked, where the combination of the three, one game to end in a tie, one game for an underdog win and a favorite win, was that of 25 to 1 odds. Or something, was it 25 or 20? I can't remember again what it was, but I won pretty decent over that run. Then as I had the internet next time, I got to know things about news groups. Telnet, I think it was. That was the first ever indication I found of any type of social media as far as communicating with other people within the internet. Well, I can't say that, chat programs. Even before the internet in 1995, which was the MIRC program. But outside of that, before any email, don't think I ever, like, who did I email when I first got it? Didn't know anyone who had it. No one knew me who had it, so it was like, didn't need it. And I would just go on there, and I learned the whole way of the betting system. And then as the next season went on, I got my butt kicked on Proline here and there, and I was always good at money management and managing bankrolls and such. And so it was easy for me to control the losses there. Although I had one huge nice win. That came late 1998. And then as time went on, I deposited into a sports book at the start of the new millennium. And I placed bets here and there, but didn't have all the greatest of success. I had a nice run in 2001, though. Into 2002. Able to make a couple nice withdrawals. But other than that, never ever could get it done. After that, I got into poker for a little while. Really weird how poker moved, because it was a combination of a whole bunch of things that stopped me from really playing, at least at any large level. Because for years and years, it was doing it all the time, like 50, 60 hours a week I was playing. Maybe 70, 80, I don't know. It was every single day, several hours a day, playing all the big game cash games and tournaments. And then in 2007, I started having interesting bad luck streak when, and it's really weird how this happened. So my best site that I ever was on, they shut down and basically another company bought them out. So my funds got moved to the other site, which was fine and they paid me. But as far as how everything went from that point on, I got an instant hit of like the sick bad luck that has never ever on the long term ever came back. Interestingly, which is why basically hardly ever play. It's almost when I play poker these days, I'm like, oh my goodness, I got aces, you got jacks, how am I going to hold? And I'm watching that commercial now of that guy who's now got the girl. It's all about the bow. It's a black-haired girl, 10% black. She's not really black. That's the girl guy. It's the commercial at 11:02 p.m. Eastern on the Canadian channel, but from the Scotia Advice Plus, they call it. I got a Scotia account, but I only use it because I have to, and so on and so forth. But within the poker one in 2007, had a lot of interesting bad luck. And then I also had a spot where it was like a weird spiritual awakening, and I didn't have a lot of cash, but I had cash, so I didn't have to play. So I really played an extreme part-time level from that point on. I only went to the casino probably like, what year was that? 2007. So maybe a couple, three more times that year. I know I went once in 2008. I don't know how many times I would have went. Probably not often because my whole awakening changed. And even into 2007, the summer of that year, is when I started to get hooked on to market trading because someone came up to me, we'll call it a poker friend, gave me a piece of paper with like a chart like this of a stock, and then just talked about the trading aspect. And I never ever thought about that before. So as the days and weeks moved on, I learned about the Dow Jones more, the gold, the silver, the oil, and so on and so forth, and just individual stocks as well. And then, of course, the actual thing about candles, market, stuff like that. But as that year went forward as well, and a lot of this came within a very unusual, unasked for, very intenseful, major woo-woo, extreme woo-woo, event that lasted between 6 to 7 days during that time frame that really got me into the whole conceptual, the whole real wake-up call as far as what's going on with banking and the whole world and everything like that. That started pretty much roughly like in the fall of that year, October 30th. Actually, it was October 30th, 2007. I know that date because it was the day before Halloween, and it was a video by Ian Crossland called Synchronization. And that was my wake-up call video, and then everything just went on from there. And it was already getting to that anyway, because I knew that the economy was in shit. Because I was already months and months and months into studying economic stuff and how the money... And then I knew the bear market of... I mean, I barely knew much about trading then and how to read charts, but I was good enough even then to realize late October of 2017 that things were starting to potentially not look so good. And then moving on into 2008, 2009, 2010, it was really weird how I moved into a very spiritual sense, but at the same point, I was big as far as the whole like Federal Reserve and the gold, silver, everything at that point. So it was a combination of a lot of those things during that time frame. And then the whole spiritual thing just majorly faded pretty much to nothing after it was almost majorly extreme. I respect the whole part of it. I really enjoy. In fact, it was monstrous to the really the major events, that the stuff that seems to be accurate information given to me around that time frame for the shit that's going to go down, and it's extreme. Which means that the whole thing of the C19, that's like just very small compared to what's going to be coming soon. But you know what? I think this is like the biggest event in history. The whole end of the fiat currency. And I just went rambling on. But basically, I'm going to be making notes and just talking about a whole bunch of different things that I want to go over. And yeah, seeing just everybody like just... They barely showed some interest in it, but they're so scared to even do anything about getting into it. Really, really crazy. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.